Hi, my name is Kayla Seidler, and today I'm going to be presenting my research PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about disabilities, culture, and technology. Um, so to get into it, the first thing I'm going to be talking about is flying, and specifically about flying with disabilities and how customers with disabilities struggle with flying when they have some sort of disability. So maybe this is you when you're flying, your flight just got canceled or it got delayed. You're super duper frustrated with like the service staff. The airport is crowded. The seats are uncomfortable. This was always me when I was traveling. And I had never stopped to think about what it was like if you were traveling with a disability, because it kind of makes things 1,000 times harder. So there's these people, her last name is Portisha. She did research on what it was like to travel with disabilities, and she interviewed people and questioned them about what it was like to travel and the struggles that they faced. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is physical disabilities. So in her research, she discovered that there was always a struggle for people with physical disabilities to get through security because they struggled with simple things like taking their shoes off. She did find one positive, and that was people with disabilities enter the plane first and they disembark last. And that's good for them because it allows them to, they can take their time while they're getting on and getting off. There's no other people there. They don't have to feel embarrassed. But yes, wheelchairs are often too big to fit inside the plane aisles. As you can see in the picture here, the aisles are super duper narrow. So in order for someone who can't walk to get to their chair, they either have to have a flight attendant carry them, or they have a special uncomfortable chair that takes passengers to their seat. And in her research, she learned that this chair often will cause more damage to disabled people's bodies. So it will cause them to have like sores and wounds and stuff like that. And then there was also a large focus on physical disabilities and the ability to use the bathroom on planes. I know for sure that I hate using the bathroom on planes. I couldn't imagine if I had to be carried by a flight attendant there. Some of the people that she interviewed said that they would just wear diapers while they were on the plane so that they could just like go in their seat and not have to make a big deal about it. And then one big focus that she learned about was that lots of people have accidents on airplanes, and it's super humiliating to do that, right? And she learned about how people would try and cover it up and how they would just they talk about people flying with disabilities. It's like a mission. It's not like a fun part of the vacation. It's like a mission that they try to accomplish. And there was also a large part of the research that I learned about unpleasant crew members. So when someone would ask for a drink or to go to the bathroom, the crew members would speak to the person with a disability as a child, or they would not speak directly to the person with a disability. They would speak to the person who's accompanying them or who's with them. So in addition to physical disabilities, she did research on visual disabilities, which I never even thought about flying while you're blind, because flying is such it's a five sense experience, right? So in her research, she found that blind people struggle to get around when they're alone, because the aisles are very narrow, and people just assume that you can see, right? One thing that really stuck out to me was that there was lots of people that preferred to sit in the window seat versus the middle or aisle because no one had to crawl over them while they were on the plane, which is something I didn't even think about because normally, right, someone will tap you and be like, hey, I'm just going to scoot by. But if you're blind, you can't see them scooting by. It would be such an awkward interaction. And then also people with visual disabilities need assistance getting to the bathroom. They can't see where they're going. They can't see what's going on. So one aspect that I think I learned a lot about was the human aspect of service. It often gets forgotten when people have disabilities. And I think it's a very important part that us as students going into the hospitality industry need to focus on, that people with disabilities are still people. They still want the same things. They still have the same attitudes as us. They just have a disability, right? So to go into the next thing, we're going to talk about a little bit about Korean superstitions, and specifically why one phone number sold for over 80,000 yuan, which is a crazy high number. It's about 20 or thousand USD. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about Korean culture versus American culture. So similar to what Patrick was telling us about with Chinese culture, the number 8 is a very lucky number in Korean culture. Specifically, numbers that can be divided are very lucky, but especially number 8. So as you can see from the picture here, they're developing this new shopping mall touristy area, and it's designed like the number 8. It's called 8 City. And the reason they're developing it as an 8 is because it's supposed to bring them luck and fortune. So when you compare that to the American culture, a big lucky number here in America is 7. So you see on slot machines and stuff like that, the number 7 everywhere. So the history of 8, I couldn't really find much about the Korean culture, which makes me think it might have stemmed from the Chinese culture, which we learned from Patrick. In the Cantonese language, the number or the pronunciation of 8 sounds like the pronunciation of the word fortune. So as you can see here, ba is 8 and like bak is fortune. So they sound very similar. So people associate the number 8 with fortune. So going into this 81,000 yuan phone number, this happened in 2006. So in Korea, people are allowed to choose the last 8 numbers of their phone number. So someone had chosen the number like 8888, which is all 8s, and it was auctioned, and it ended up going for 81,000 like yuan. And I learned it's very common for people in Korea to choose special phone numbers specifically for the last 4 digits. So some of the things were like family name, so like numbers that like represented or sounded like a family name. Diamonds were very popular, numbers that made diamonds. So like 2, 4, 6, 8, I think was one of them. And then like things that sound like other things was very popular. So one of them was like, my wife will be very fortunate. And it sounded very similar in Cantonese. So how is this changing the global hospitality industry? Well, if you have a guest who you know really likes the number 8, or they're a high baller and they come from this culture where 8 is very lucky, maybe you could put them on the 8th floor, maybe you could put them in the 888th room, right? You could kind of feed into those superstitions to not only make them feel welcome, but make them feel lucky. And in a casino, feeling lucky spending money is all about feeling lucky. So if you make them feel lucky, they'll spend more money in your establishment. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is technology trends in hospitality, and specifically conveyor belts in restaurants. I found this so interesting when we were talking about it in class. So there's this new, it's an RFID management system, and it is in combination with conveyor belt sushi. So what even is this? So as you can see on my little like GIF here, sushi goes around the conveyor belt, passes by tables, and people can pick off which one they want. All of the plates, the sushi, the table itself, all has RFID tags on it. So when someone takes the plate of sushi off the conveyor belt, they automatically get charged onto their ticket for that roll of sushi. So who benefits from this? Well, the customers, right? They can get food quicker, faster, they can try more things. The manager benefits because they don't have to worry about quality and freshness because it's coming directly from the conveyor belt to the table. The business owner benefits because they can see how much sushi is getting eaten. They can see what's popular. They can see the trends. The chef is benefiting because his food can stay fresh longer because they can tell, I mean, we'll get down to the pros. And the waiter is benefiting because his job or her job is a little bit easier because they don't have to individually bill up all the rolls of sushi. So what are some pros of this? Record keeping of materials. That means that when a roll of sushi is placed onto the conveyor belt, they automatically know how much rice is in that, how much sushi is in it, or like fish, how much vegetables are in it. Tracking the eating habits and favorite choices, tracking guest eating habits and favorite choices. So if the restaurant knows that the tuna roll is going really popular, but the tempura roll is not, maybe they can take the tempura roll off their menu and they can produce more of the tuna roll. It allows for faster restock because the kitchen knows exactly what is getting taken and what is not. It automatically removes uneaten food from belts. So this was a special function of this specific RFID tag that I was researching. So it actually will tell you how long the food has been sitting there and when to remove it. And it also, like I was talking about before, it provides automatic billing based on what was taken off the conveyor belt. So this is, I know we were talking a little bit about service blueprints in our class, so I wanted to provide the service blueprint for this actual function. So as you can see here, I don't know if I can like mark this. I've never used Zoom before, but as you can see right here, the tags, all the sushi plates have the little tags on them and you can see them. And then they get placed on the conveyor belt and people, you can track like who's taking what, and then it's all probably pumped into a spreadsheet. And then the machine tells you, making sure that the quality stays up to date. But yeah, and then it gets pumped to the POS system. It gets sent to other applications, sushi management, so that the chef knows how much more to make, which is super duper cool. So where is this being implemented? Well, Master Kim's here in Las Vegas is a great example of conveyor belts being utilized. I don't know if any of you guys have been to Master Kim's, but in between all the tables, there's a conveyor belt and it brings you the raw food directly to your table. So your waiter doesn't touch any of your food. It comes directly from the kitchen, which is really interesting. It doesn't work sometimes. I know that so when it comes to your table, I have been like, oh, we did not order this. Like, whose is this? And if you leave it on the conveyor belt, they'll send it back to the kitchen. So it's a pretty cool thing. It takes a lot of the stress and work out of being a waiter. And it's definitely cool to go there. So I know one of the burning questions I had is it unhygienic? It seems a little gross to me to have food traveling around the restaurant all willy-nilly without anybody having any focus on it. So I'm going to say it's a little gross. Some of the reviews of this conveyor belt sushi that I found, people stress about the uncooked food traveling around the room. There's no way to know if it's still the same temperature. There's no way to know if it's gone rancid. I know that we did in class a little bit of research on these new Bluetooth plates that tell you how hot or how cold the food is. Maybe if that was combined with this, it would be a little bit more hygienic. My two main concerns were down here. What if someone touches something and then puts it back? They pick up the tuna roll, they were like, ew, this looks gross, and they put it back. That seems kind of gross to me. And then this one, could somebody alter the food on the track? Could someone put something in the food? Could they alter it? Could they take something away? These are the concerns that I have with conveyor belt restaurants. But thank you so much for listening. Here are my references for anything that I referred to. But if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. And thank you so much for listening.